When you come on a show like this, a lot of people don't know that you are spending 12, 15 hours. I mean, you spend more time with your cast than you do your own family.
It was really an interesting camaraderie.
We were all very good friends on the show. I mean, when you spend that much time with someone, you really become family to each other.
The camaraderie was significant because we spent so many hours together.
It was fun. It was an absolute blast. You're spending all this time with all these people.
We were all unknown actors that kind of got thrown into this little mix together, and the show became a success, and I think that we didn't really have anybody to rely on except each other.
We were experiencing a very unique, very personal experience during a very formative time of our lives.
In the Power Rangers, we've always made sure that we have a very diversified team, both from a gender and an ethnic standpoint. When you look at the kids in Power Rangers, they reflect the population of the United States.
Katie Wallen was the casting person for the show, and she had her hands full.
When we were looking and casting for the Power Rangers, we were looking for a few things. Number one is when finding television stars, you have to find people that are charisma, that have a solid sense of who they are. They've got that it quality.
They had to be either gymnasts, martial artists, or dancers, and many were not, even though they were trying to do it.
Not a lot of them had a lot of acting experience, and that was okay, because they each brought something so unique.
It was funny, I actually was working on Star Search when I first got the call for the audition.
I learned about the audition for Power Rangers in something that they called Backstage West. It just said they were looking for people that had like a 90210 look. You needed to be 18 but play younger, and martial arts or gymnastics background would be helpful.
I got the call, I was like, hey, this TV show, kids show, Power Rangers. I was like, man, I missed it, I was upset. And then I guess the auditions continued on, and I come back the following week, and I got the call for it.
These actors went through a tremendous amount of auditions. It was like 2 or 3 callbacks.
First off, we had to do read the sides, which is simple for me because I'm an actor. I had studied acting and been acting for quite some time. And then they asked us to do some martial arts.
The first callback, for instance, was done in a gym with the stunt coordinator for the pilot. And he ran them through their paces to see if they could actually do it. And if they weren't martial artists, could they fake it? We found out a lot about how we were going to have to make the show in doing that.
We relied on improv, and we relied on special skills. And I remember one day while auditioning for the Power Rangers, Amy Jo was doing an acting class in this very building. And I think she was a little frustrated with her acting career at that time. And I said, I have a perfect idea. You should come in right now and audition for the Power Rangers. She's like, what? And I'm like, you mentioned you did gymnastics. You can come in and do a back handspring for me, and I'll give you some scenes, and we'll do a little improv. And she was like, wow, I never really thought gymnastics would come in really handy in an audition. I said, absolutely. So the first thing she does when she comes in, right in the studio next door, is I said, let's see some of your gymnastic experience. She whipped out a back handspring.
Hey, I'm Kimberly. You're new around here, aren't you?
Amy was, from the minute you saw her work, you said, she's going to have a TV show. She is absolutely going to be on a network show.
Man, that girl is a powerhouse. She was one of the girls that everybody loved. I liked her too.
Amy Jo is very much like a sister to me. Obviously, I think she is amazingly talented.
AJ, she is a complicated person. She's fun. There's no two ways about it. She's very fun.
She always had a lot of things going on. She had her music, you know, and she used to bring her guitar to set and play, and it was awesome, you know. I mean, I just loved like watching her like play music and sing.
I think her and I really bonded because we were the cast members that really had acting as something that we were already doing and a passion that we both enjoyed.
She had a tough work ethic. She had gone to acting school. She had gone to AMDA, I think, in New York, which is why she had kind of a almost Stanislavski background.
She would always do this method stuff, and she would try and hide it from me because she thought I would mock her for it. But in reality, it was the very thing that I respected her and respect her most for, was her complete commitment to the moment.
She always brought a lot of truth to her character. And, you know, skilled gymnastics person and pretty much a sweet girl. I had a lot of fun with her.
It's morphin' time.
Austin was very new to the acting scene. Actually, it come on the audition as a dare from somebody else.
I remember him coming in, again, to this studio, and he had a confidence. He had a little bit of an edge. And it was nice because you could really start to see their different personalities when they came into audition and how it was going to work in terms of the chemistry of the cast and what each was going to bring to that particular ranger.
He had this youthfulness. Of course, he was very good shape. He was a martial artist and all of that, but there was a certain innocence to him that came along with that strength, which made him a really appealing hero type.
He was the youngest of us, so he had a lot of growing pains, I think, to go through.
And just to see the way he grew, you know, he was always pushing himself to do better as far as acting, as far as martial arts, as far as gymnastics. It's like, you know, if I did a backflip, he had to do a backflip. Of course, he landed on his neck a couple of times, but he would get it eventually, right?
I love Austin. He's really, really funny. And he took this role so seriously. Like, he was not messing around. And I love Elvis. And he looked like Elvis.
He's actually a lot gentler than he likes to let on. I mean, he's a big, beefy looking dude, but he's really nice.
He came from a very interesting background of family issues, and you know, I have a lot of respect of what he had to go through and the maturing process that he had to go through, and sort of in the beginning being cast as the leader of all of us.
He had an interesting challenge ahead of him because at some point in the season or in the arc of the story of the first year, a new mysterious ranger appeared.
He was the leader in the beginning. I was kind of like the lone ranger, so I was kind of on my own. And then eventually my character, the Green Ranger, you know, became the leader on the show.
So Austin, who had been the alpha male, suddenly had a new guy to contend with who was just as good as he was and a little bit more mysterious. And to his credit, he didn't give us a lot of heat and a lot of trouble. It was okay. I don't know if they ever became friends, but he handled it well.
I thought he did a great job, and I thought he was an amazing athlete, and I think he's a great guy, and I have a lot of respect for him.
He's just an awesome guy, and he's doing great, wonderful, positive things, and has been throughout his life, which is since Rangers.
He really wants to live the life of a hero that he portrays on TV. He really does. That's why right now I believe he's working as a paramedic or emergency responder back east somewhere. You know, so he really does try to live up to that.
Check it out.
I'm watching.
Walter Jones played Zach, the Black Ranger. What Walter brings is exuberance, energy. He's just always seemed to be on camera like having the time of his life.
I had already studied like singing, dancing, and acting, and I've been studying martial arts, and I've been doing street gymnastics since I was a kid, starting with jumping over bushes and then flipping over bushes and so forth and so on.
He would walk in, though, and he knew how to move his body. He knew how to dance. He knew how to perform. He knew how to just turn it on. And again, instantly, when he came in, I said, that Walter is going to be a Power Ranger.
One of my favorite things to do was to grab somebody else from the audition and have them stand up, and then go through this thing where I go, I want you to stand up right here, just don't move. Okay, now I want you to bend over, just stay right there, don't move. Okay, and then I back up about 4 steps and I run and I do a front flip over the top of them, land and go. You can stand up now. It's like that was always really impressive for all the auditions, and I was able to do that at the audition, and so right away they were like, okay, this guy's got something.
I'll tell you, to this day, Walter is a hip dude. He's always hip. He's on top of his language.
You are hard-pressed to find a bigger personality than Walter Jones. Ha! What's happening, folks? Nobody can control a room like Walter Jones. Nobody can hold an entire room at all like Walter Jones.
He's such a good guy, and he's funny, and such a talented dancer.
He's got this gift of movement. Even today, like, he's one of the best dancers that I've ever seen.
What I liked about him is that he did something called hip-hop keto. So he kind of developed this dancing style, karate-ish, which is kind of like capoeira, but he called it hip hop keto. So he was always interesting to watch fight, train, act. I think he was very talented.
I finally completed a narrow beam transmission module that will allow wave function over an extended interval. Well, aren't y'all excited?
Well, I will be as soon as I figure out what you just said.
I originally auditioned for the role of Jason, not Billy, and I got called back 2 or 3 times for Jason, and then I could tell that wasn't going to go in my favor, so I asked the casting director if I could read for Billy, and she let me.
He was able to kind of play that kind of uncomfortable in his own skin kind of character, and in such a lovable way.
He would come in and it was so new for him. And he was like, what? He would, I think, question what the process was and how we were doing it. And he was inquisitive and he was quirky, which I loved.
You know, it's funny because his character, Billy, was this really super intelligent guy, and David Yost is actually a lot cooler. He's not nerdy at all. He's like this fun-loving, charismatic, model-looking guy, you know, with the glasses. It made him look like he was, yeah, hi, I'm Billy, but yeah, I took the glasses off and he was like, yeah, I'm David Yost.
He had the hardest lines of all times. We would sit there and we would act, and he'd read his lines, and I'd be like, how'd you even know what to say, you know? How did you even read it?
I love David. An extremely talented guy, extremely nice, caring guy.
We were put together when we did a lot of the publicity because they would always put boy, girl. And so David and I were always partners. And so we'd go on trips together and promote the movie, and we spent a lot of time together. He's such a great person.
You get me choked up.
And then the sphere will have an angular decay of 3.1 to the minus 10 with a drag coefficient of 0.9875.
Oh, so in other words, if I spin the ball and I aim for the pocket, I'm going to get a strike.
Affirmative.
In the original pilot, we cast an actress named Audrey Dubois as the Yellow Ranger. The reason she was cast was that she was an extraordinary martial artist. She was very tiny and not too intimidating, yet when she did her kata in the audition, she scared the bejesus out of all of us. It was pretty powerful. She worked hard on the pilot, and then for various reasons, she wasn't able to continue. And so very quickly, they had to go out and find a new Yellow Ranger, so they brought in Thuy Trang.
We brought all the probably 20 people back for the screen test. And it was Haim Saban and everybody in one room. Thuy was sitting outside of the room, and she said, I don't know if I can do this, Katie. I don't know if I can walk into that room and audition. I am terrified. And I said, here's what we're going to do. You're not only going to walk into that audition, you are going to walk in and jump on the table where all the executives are sitting, and you are going to own that audition. So I walk in, the videos are rolling, and Thuy runs in and she jumps on the table and proceeded to audition and went crazy. And she became a Power Ranger.
What Thuy really brought to that character is grace. She was soft-spoken. She's very beautiful, kind of the Asian component to the show that I think helped continue to tie it to the original Japanese. And also a character that I think that girls who were not the pop culture girls could relate to. She was intelligent. She's the only one that could really speak to Billy in Billy's language, and always had that just absolutely gorgeous smile on her face. And I think that's what she really brought to the show.
Thuy Trang. I loved Thuy. Thuy and I were really good friends.
Thuy is another amazing story, just what she had to go through and her family had to go through to get to this country and to start a new life here.
She was very much like Trini, her character, very much this soft-hearted soul that was kind to everybody, very sweet.
She had a very unique center about her. She had already accomplished so much, but she expected more from herself.
You're probably familiar with the time that the Power Rangers shut down the Los Angeles freeways in 1994, 95. At that, it was Universal Studios. Thuy got injured in the stage show. She was supposed to, the Power Rangers did an entrance where they, flipped onto stage and there was fireworks. As Thuy did her entrance, it was the Universal Amphitheater. She did a flip, and the fireworks went off at the same time, and it completely screwed up her sight. And she landed funny, and it screwed up her leg. So she did Power Rangers for probably, I want to say about 8 weeks, with a sprained ankle.
We would coordinate the scenes so that everybody around her moved, but she stayed in one place because her ankle had gone. And there came a point where they had to do their Mighty Morphin thing and leave the world, which meant that you kept the camera rolling, you said freeze to the people around them, and then the Power Rangers would disappear. And they did that, of course, by walking off out of camera range, which she couldn't do. So the other Power Rangers had to pick her up and carry her off. But she was a totally good sport about it, and we made the day, and there you are. She was great.
She was laughing about it. We teased her about it, about how she was a gimp, how she was the Power Ranger with a limp, the hunchback Power Ranger. She loved it. She laughed it up. That's how loving she was. You know, never complained, not for a minute.
You know, she's no longer with us, and that makes me so sad because I wish she were here to experience some of the things that we experienced from the success of the show now, and her career was just launching. You know, she was heading to, I think she would have done some great things, you know, with her talent and her skills, and she's a good actress.
I miss Thuy. Again, one of the first people I ever worked with, and she was one of these stunningly beautiful women.
When I look back at pictures of her, I don't think at that time I even realized how beautiful she was, but now when I see pictures of her, I'm like, wow. She was so stunning and so sweet, and had an amazing laugh, and was just very down to earth.
It was intimidating almost to work with her on your first day because she was so pretty, and she was so poised that she almost seemed standoffish. But when you meet her, she was the most open, loving person you would ever want to meet. So it's a real loss that she's not around. You know, it's a real tragedy.
And now, morph into the Green Ranger!
To the fall of Zordon and the destruction of the Power Rangers!
Once we started rolling cameras, I grabbed the next set of episodes to start going through and extract the footage and go through that same process so we could get the writers on it. And suddenly, a sixth Ranger shows up. I was stunned, and I start going forward and going, oh no, he stays with us. He's not just a guest character. So I immediately, in a panic, went to Ellen Sarnoff, the development executive, and we went to Chaim and said, there's another Ranger. We have to do something. So very quickly, the casting call went out.
Jason David Frank was another young man that we met, martial artist background, that had the it factor and like attracted everyone, especially women. And in the lobby, I remember just looking, and he was just that leading man.
They wanted to look. It was a chance to bring in possibly a little junior high school romance kind of stuff into this. So we very quickly kind of changed the direction of the way we were writing the American story in order to make the quick left turn that the Japanese story did, and brought him in to shoot.
We had already been together for a while, so we're established as a cast, and we got our rhythm and everything. He came and just mixed everything all up.
Fight by our side and we can defeat Rita. After everything that's happened, Tommy, we need you. It's where you belong.
He had a tough role to play. In the same way that Austin St. John had it difficult to deal with a new, powerful Power Ranger, Jason had it tricky too, because he was the new kid on the block, but he was supposed to be this special thing, and it could either go to his head or it could just go in the tubes, and he made it work.
I think Jason's appearance in the show is what solidified our ratings with the girls. And they all wanted to see if Jason and Kimberly were going to get together.
Jason David Frank is by far one of the most stunning examples of martial arts skill that I've ever come across. He would just float in the air for like 3 seconds and be like,
man, that guy. Woo! Jason David Frank is a handful, boy, I'll tell you.
If there's a class clown, it was definitely him. And he was the one who always entertained everybody, cast and crew alike.
He's the funniest guy, one of the most sincere people you'll ever meet, but you gotta watch your back, because Jason Frank will pull a prank on you at any given moment.
Nobody else could get away with it, you know. Anybody else we did get a talking to, but him, he could do it, you know. And it was funny. It was kind of charming, you know, for the most part.
He's one of those guys that always wants to get his buddies involved in everything, no matter how good or bad the idea was.
We had an episode where we're riding ATVs, and, you know, they're kind of new to us. We haven't ridden ATVs before, and we get on and we're taking it easy, and they're like, okay, don't go too fast, you know. All right. We're going down, riding 15, 20 miles an hour, and Jason Frank gets on his, and he's like, yeah! he starts going over the hills, and he's going through the parking lot. He goes off into the woods, and he's like going through the wilderness. And we're like, I can't believe he just did that. And the crew's going, Jason Frank has gone amok. He's wild, and everybody's chasing after him, and he's just having a blast. Just is crazy. And eventually I had to join him.
To this day, I'll get text messages from Jason, and he's just checking on me. Just, how are you? And how's your family? And, you know, what are you up to? Or, I'm so proud of you. If he sees me on other shows or he sees me on other projects, he's so supportive of my career and who I am. And he's told me, he was like, I really was sad when you left the show. You know, so Jason's like, he's like that brother you have that you want to punch, but you want to hug. It's like the Sour Patch Kid. He'll do something mean, and then he's sweet at the end. I don't know. He's crazy, but I love him.
Jason David Frank is a force of life, and he kind of brought that into the show and became one of the most popular characters to this day.
So, Power Rangers, may I assume that you are pleased with the new leader of the Power Team?
In the original pilot, Bulk and Skull were not the same characters. Skull was the leader, and he was played by a stunt actor, essentially, because we thought we were going to have a lot more human-to-human fighting. But we realized pretty quickly, and especially with Fox's input, that maybe that was not a good idea. And Paul Schreier, who played Bulk, who was supposed to be the sidekick, was such an extraordinarily funny actor that the decision was made to put him in the lead, make him the head baddie, and cast somebody else to play his sidekick as Skull.
Oh no, look who's here. Bulk and Skull.
Hi, girls. How about that double date we talked about?
Yeah.
We were already getting ready on set to start shooting, and we still didn't have a sidekick for him, so they put out an open call, and had a bunch of people came in, and they had Paul go and spend half hour, 40 minutes with each one of them.
I had come in with my leather jacket, my greasy hairdo, my oily work uniform, and I was about as insulting as you possibly can. I said, if they don't take me, they will remember me. They will have nightmares about me. And unfortunately, that's exactly what they wanted.
I was like, you are awesome. What is your name, dude? That was right after they told me, you know. And they let me look at videotapes, and of course I was like, that's the guy.
I remember doing a chemistry read with the both of them, and that's when you knew you had that right duo. Because together, like fireworks went off.
After spending about an hour with Jason or so, he came out and said, this is the guy. And that's how, and they'd never met before, but they've had a tremendous chemistry then and even now.
Bulk and Skull, peace ambassadors. Alvitersing. Alvitersing. Yeah, boy, Swiss chocolate cheer is great this time of year.
The Swiss and chocolate ain't good.
The three teams from Angel Grove are Jason Lee, Zach Taylor, and Trini Kwan.
Right after we started shooting season 2, Walter, Austin, and Thuy decided to leave the show. And so we suddenly had to scramble and figure out what we were going to do.
We went out and said, we're going to do a nationwide search. I remember getting on the plane and going to San Antonio. And I walked into a room of the most, it's great, it's awesome, excited people, kids that wanted to be the next Power Ranger.
It was like American Idol. There was like 4,000 people there. And I'm just like, oh my God, there's no way, you know? It's like, am I even gonna be able to be seen? Because there's just so many people. It was like a sea of people. But then they started quickly eliminating people right away, because anybody that wasn't 18, out.
They said, well, what are you gonna do? And I said, I'm gonna dance. And I go, I have some music. And she cut me off and was like, well, if you're gonna dance, just dance. We don't have a tape recorder or whatever it was. And I was like, hit it. I just started dancing.
I was like doing my routine, and I only got halfway through it. And they said, stop. And I'm like, damn, I'm cut already? You know, it's like I didn't even get to show you all the other stuff. And they're like, no, we want to have you do what we call a callback. So just stick around here, and we're going to call you back in a couple hours to bring you through another round. So I'm like, oh, cool, I made it through another round.
I went home, and I was like, I don't know if I did good. I don't know if I did bad, but, you know, I did it.
But I started saying to myself, you know what? It's like, if I made it to the second round, If this is all I get, then cool. I mean, at least I can say that, and it's more than most people could say.
I remember seeing Johnny and Steve at the callback. The first time that morning, I mean, there was thousands of people. I didn't see anyone. It was like a blur. But on the callback, I mean, we were sitting there for at least an hour. They narrowed down the 1,000 to like 100. So then you could see everyone. You kind of met, and Johnny and Steve were like, we knew you were gonna get picked because you were sitting there practicing your lines, and you just kind of. And I was like, I did. You thought I was gonna get picked. I was like, I wish you would have told me.
So I did my routine, and they were like, okay, don't call us, we'll call you. And I went home, and then a couple days later they called me.
And she said, can you come out to LA? The producers want to see you. And I just like died, and I was like, absolutely. And I packed a bag. I had 2 outfits, and because we were supposed to go and fly back the very next morning.
And I said, cool. So I'm like, yeah. It's like, how many people made it through that round? He's like, 3. And I'm like, oh man. So I'm like, so then I said to myself, you know what? I'm getting a free trip to California, and if I don't make it anywhere after that, I made it to the last 3 people, so that'll be good enough. I could be happy with that.
We knew that they were auditioning all over the country. Like, they auditioned in LA, Texas, Florida, Atlanta. I mean, it was everywhere, New York.
At the end, they go, okay, out of everybody, we've picked 3 people. They picked me, Karen, and Johnny. And we're like, yes. And they said, but it's not over yet. You gotta come back for another audition tomorrow against the people that we've chose from California. And I'm like, oh man, this is never ending. It's like, man, I was like sitting on the edge of my seat the whole time. So then the next day we walk in, and we're getting ready to do our routine again. And I go to one of the producers, and I'm like, hey, look, even if we don't make it, is there any way that we could like meet the Power Rangers and at least just take pictures with them or something like that, so we could at least just have this as the audition, so we can take it back to our lives, And they were like, hang on a second. And they went into a room, and they, for an hour and a half, they just sat there, and we were just sitting there while they were in a room just talking. And then they opened the door, and they called me and Johnny and Karen in, and they were like, okay, you're not gonna get to take a picture with the Power Rangers. You're not gonna get to meet the Power Rangers because you are the new Power Rangers. And we're like, yeah! And we're like hugging each other.
It was crazy. The 3 that got picked were, Johnny, Steve, and I. We all were from the Dallas area.
They're like, yeah, so you can't go home because we gotta start filming right away. So have your parents mail you your clothes because, we have to get started filming right now.
Hi, my name's Rocky.
Hi, Aisha.
Adam.
It was interesting when we first got on the show, and we didn't know that we were actually replacing people until we actually got the jobs. So we kind of didn't know what we were walking into. We didn't know if it was a tense situation, if it was a good situation, if people were going to have resentment for us being there.
They were totally cool, actually. I was surprised, I thought maybe they would be, judgmental, or, maybe like, we've already been here for a while, we have seniority, cold shoulder kind of thing, but no, they weren't like that at all,
I remember we were shooting on location, so we were outside at a park, and we'd been working all morning, and the other 3 had arrived at some point, like in the middle of the day, and they all walked over together, and I just remember Jason, Frank, and Amy, and David, like they were all smiling, and Jason really, came forward and broke the ice, and, was like, we're so happy you're here, and you're going to have so much fun, and tell me where you're from, it was a really good situation.
I mean, everybody that they cast, I'm still friends with for the most part. I talk to Karen quite regularly. Steve doesn't live but a block and a half away from me right now.
And I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our new friends.
This is
Rocky,
amazing.
Aisha, and Adam.
Shh, Rocky, let the man talk. I think he's a man.
It was interesting because they all brought something new to the table. Karen continued that same exuberance that Walter had, but it was different. It was cute. It was fun. It was a little more quirky.
Karen, she's just the way that you know her. I mean, just the smile on her face. I've never seen her without it.
Even to this day, she's such a sweet girl. She's really sweet, kind, loving, caring, much like her character was on the show.
When you watch her in Power Rangers, you say, wow, look how young Karen was. Look how young and bubbly. And when you meet her today, you'll say, no, it wasn't that she was young. She's just that bubbly.
Now, where were we?
Steve had a little bit of more youthfulness, but he was a little more solid and just kind of brought a different kind of vibe to the table.
Steve Cardenas. Talk about a cool cat, Steve, He's the guy that's always sitting back. Yeah, whatever. Nothing phases Steve, no matter how good or bad. He's the guy that if you're worried about something in life, hang out with Steve. You won't worry about it too much longer.
Steve is the guy you want to party with. Steve is the one that will dance with you all night. Steve is the guy that if you're going to be stuck in anywhere, you want Steve because Steve will entertain you the whole time that you're there.
He is the most honest man I think I've ever met. Like, the guy is incapable. He won't do it. He will not lie. He just, when I've tried to get him to like mess with people, and he won't. He's just like, no, it's not right, man. It's not right.
My first day on set, he was the first person that welcomed me and warmed me into the cast, and he's just a great guy.
Hey guys, Laura just asked me to the dance.
Hey, looks like I'm the only one without a date. Even Bulk and Skull are going. Those girls ever catch them?
Johnny brought innocence. He was the innocent one, the young, innocent, wide-eyed, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to do it. And that's kind of how he really was at the time. I mean, he was pretty young and a little scared.
He was real quiet, kind of shy in the beginning, you know, which he obviously opened up, you know, and that was good. And now he's like, his career's really taken off, you know, he's doing all kinds of stuff now. But in the beginning, he was very shy.
Johnny was my best friend. Johnny and I were besties. Like, we were the two youngest, and we were probably the two that missed our family the most. We were probably the two that had never really been out on our own.
We spent so much time coming up with little videos to shoot, little films to do, scripts, projects, things to do for fun. Johnny cannot be idle. That's why his band, iShine, is always gigging. Johnny doesn't do one thing, he does 50 or 70 things.
It's so funny because he was always so boyish and sweet, and now he's like this rocker, and, you know, he's kind of turned into this man and before my eyes.
I told him, I said, I've never seen you sing on the show at all. And he's a good singer. Like, it just happened to be when he was off the show. I'm like, oh, he's in a band. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, you're in a band. I wonder what it sounds like. Then I heard him, I'm like, I never knew you could sing. He said, neither do I.
Kimberly, you have been a proud warrior and have defended our planet valiantly. Yet the opportunity that lies before you is much too difficult for you to ignore.
Having Amy Jo leave the Power Rangers is big shoes to fill.
Amy Jo's departure was a little different. It was planned. She knew she wanted to leave and that she had pretty much done what she wanted to do there and wanted to move on. She was starting to do some feature films at the time.
She's a fan favorite, so to replace her was a big undertaking. But that's the natural transition of a successful show.
The reason they came to Australia in the first place was that they'd filmed the first movie there, and I had originally read for Dulcia, but I was not old enough to play Dulcia. I wasn't sexy enough. So when I auditioned for it, all I knew was that I had to do some kind of martial arts, and it was a children's show. They had us do, I think I did 3 or 4 auditions, I think it was. The first one was a scene, and the second one was a martial arts routine, which I was a dancer. I was not a martial artist by any means, so I hope that footage doesn't air. Please don't put it on. So I had to do a martial arts routine, and then the third was a meeting with Shuki Levy, who was one of the producers.
Shuki she really loved the fact that she was pretty and was Australian, and to try to bring a little bit more international flavor and a different sensibility to that character.
It was probably a 6 weeks process of getting green cards really fast. I mean, I had to be here by June, and I think they cast me in beginning of May or end of April, something like that. So it was like jamming, trying to get me here. And I literally flew to Canberra, which is about an hour flight from Sydney, to get my passport stamped, and left the next morning. Left my parents to pack up my whole house in Sydney and moved my life over here. It was pretty crazy.
Catherine Sutherland joined our cast, at a very, very difficult time. She had a tough job picking up the mantle of that ranger. And she did it, and she did it with class. And there's a real sweet honesty about her performance in those early episodes.
It was funny because it was like the roles reversed. When Catherine got on the show, I knew what it felt to be the new person. So for me, and being a girl, I instantly just would go to her, and I instantly would be around her because I never wanted her to feel like she didn't have any friends. And I thought, man, I was homesick and I was from Texas. That's only a 3-hour plane ride away. Catherine is from Australia. She literally has no one here but us.
Extremely talented actress. I was instantly impressed with her acting chops, her seriousness about her craft.
Kat and Narvi are actually closer than she and I were because I was quite frankly attracted to her, and so I wasn't really allowed to talk to her because I had a girlfriend.
she was so close to me that when I got married, it was extremely important that she and my wife got to spend time together, because Kat is like a sister to me. She really is. And 2 weeks ago when we were in Kentucky doing the Lexington Comic-Con, Kat and my wife got to spend time together. And again, it's like meeting family, you know? So yeah, Kat, what do you say? She's family, you know? Wow, I got a big family, don't I?
You know, we can't let this conversation end without, giving a nod to our friend Richard Ginelli, who played Ernie for years, as well as Jack Manning, who played Professor Phenomenus with us for at least with me for a couple of seasons, and they have left us, but they are fondly remembered and wonderful performers.